Hello, Facebook family. For those of you that don't know me or recognize me, I am Cassandra Lang, and I'm doing this posting. One, I'm working on a blog. I'm now pursuing my legal studies degree, and we're being challenged to write a blog. And for those of you that know me, you know that I've been in ministry for many, many years. I've led praise and worship at various churches. I've preached the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I'm kind of like sort of on a sabbatical, trying to navigate on my journey and reassess my life and see exactly what it is that God is assigning me to do next, in the next step in destiny, as I always preach. But I'm pursuing my legal studies degree to then from there pursue my law degree. And the reason is not because I actually want to practice law, but because I want to know the law. You know, I look around our community and I see so many unjust situations, and I'm like, God, what can I do to be of assistance to those individuals that don't know their rights? So that is my pursuit. That's why oh God, legal studies is kind of hard. I didn't realize how dumb I was with the law until I started taking this class. So I'll be finishing up in a year and a half, and from there I'll pursue my law degree. But back to the subject matter. I decided to do a blog on the issues that we're facing now here in the state of Louisiana. You know, we're dealing with the Alton Sterling's case, and I first initially titled my blog How to Prevent Yourself from becoming a victim or a victim of death or either brutality or assault by the hands of the police. So I began to do some research upon me preparing for this blog for my legal studies program. And as I began to view different YouTube videos, I saw a pattern. Now, I want you to put on your sage cap. What do I mean by that? Your sage cap. I want you to begin to observe life, and that's what sage is. Sage is an observer of life. So as I began to do my research for this blog and study, you know, I started seeing a pattern. I say, well, God, what can I tell people, or what can I ask them to begin to cause them to think on solutions to the problems that we're facing? So, you know, I began to do research on police misconduct and resisting of arrest, and I once again saw a pattern on both ends. So I said that this is a dichotomy, because I'm going to present something to you from both ends. I first want to say that when we think of policeman or woman, we think of the uniform and the person. Well, at least if you're saging, if you're observing, be an observer of life. Put on your observation caps right now. So then I begin to just analyze, okay, you know, a police officer is first a human being, and he's in a uniform. Now, the uniform itself carries a level of authority and respect, the uniform, because of who they are representing and who they represent and who they're supposed to protect. So it takes me to a question that I'd like to ask you all. Outside of the uniform, who is the police? Outside of their uniform, who are they? Let me give you an answer, my answer to that, and I want you to send me your answers in my inbox. They're human beings, which means they get angry like I get angry and like you get angry. They get upset like you get upset and like I get upset. Yes, although they are supposed to pledge an allegiance to their uniform, however, sometimes they don't. But one thing I want to amplify in this conversation is all police are not the same. Just as all priests are not the same. All Navy SEALs are not the same. All preachers are not the same. They may wear a robe, but the robe represents something. But that human being also represents something. And what I'm trying to say to you is, in your approach to a police officer, are we mindful of how we approach police officers? Number one. If you're stopped, I want to give you a scenario here. If you are stopped by the police, say you're speeding on the interstate, and the police pulls you over. The police may very well have a nasty attitude. But what type of attitude do you have? Now, I was told a long time ago by my a pastor was preaching, and he said that a softly spoken word turns away wrath, and that softly spoken words are like I think an apple in a golden vase. So the words that we use, our attitude, determines the outcome of a lot of situations. So what am I saying to you in this video? There are some things that we will never be able to change, and there are some things that we can change. In the history of man, there's always going to be evil, because the Bible says that man's thoughts are evil continuously. I just want to give you a scenario. One day I was stopped by the police, and I didn't put my blinkers on, and I saw the look in his eyes when I proceeded to make that right without my blinkers being on, because he was ahead of me, and he could have come on straight across if I had put my blinkers on, signifying that I was turning, but he was hesitant because he didn't know what I was about to do, so he stopped me, right? I had just got back from Texas, so a lot of my paperwork was not correct. But however, when he stopped me, he said, "Do you know what you just did?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "I didn't put on my blinkers." And he had an attitude. If he could have given me 50 tickets, if I would have had an attitude back with him, I think he would have given me 50 tickets. But I think because of my humility and me humbling myself and not having an attitude saved me that day from getting various tickets. But he did give me a ticket for my inspection sticker because it was expired. But what I'm trying to say to you is attitude plays a great role in how anyone responds to you, not just police officers, but anybody. So scenario one is, if you're stopped by a police officer, how do you respond? Well, I would tell you what my mother would have told me. She's gone on to be with the Lord, but she said that respect carries you a long way. And the Bible tells us to respect those in authority, whether they be meek or forward. And back to the topic of police misconduct and resisting of arrest, because this is what I'm going to deal with in my blog. First of all, as I begin to study the videos that I watch where they posted saying that it was police brutality or police assaulting, all these videos that I watch, the pattern that existed was resisting of arrest. Now my thing is this: no, none of us want to be arrested. But at the end of the day, if the police officer stops you and he says to get down to the ground, and you don't get down to the ground, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen? Let me give you a scenario in your everyday living. Say you're at home and you're watching your children, or you're watching your nieces and nephews, and you tell them before you leave to go out of the living room, if somebody knocks at that door, do not open it. So you head to the back of the house or to the kitchen somewhere, and you leave them unattended. And you hear a knock on the door, so you proceed back toward the front of the house. And upon you coming to the front of the house, one of the children are at the door about to open it. And you tell them, "No, do not open that door now. Did I tell you don't open that or answer that door for anyone?" And they proceed on answering the door, and they about to open it. What? Come on, think about it. What is your reaction? What's the human reaction to a disobedient child? Let's just keep it 1,000. I'll be honest with you. My reaction would be, "Didn't I tell you?" I would grab them. "Didn't I tell you don't open that door for anyone?" Out of anger. So I'm going back to police misconduct. You're dealing with someone in a uniform that possibly all day dealing with attitudes. And they come to another situation. And here you got this person. Not saying the police officer is right. Not saying that our behavior to how we react to disobedience of others is correct. because we know it's not right. But however, knowing this, how do you respond to the police, even if they have an attitude, even if they are forward? It's a dichotomy here we're dealing with. I'm dealing with both ends of the stick. I'm dealing with the misconduct of police officers, and I'm dealing with the resisting of arrest with civilians. Now, this is what I would tell my son. I don't have children, but I do have nephews. I would tell them, I want you to make it back home safe. I want you to come home. And if you are stopped by a police officer, you deal with them in respect, with respect. Do what you're told. If they are unjust or forward and not gentle, handle it in the court. Let's take it to court. But I want you to make it home safely. So I end with this. There are some things that we will never ever be able to change in this life, but we can work toward change. And I was once told by my mother, that was told by her grandmother, when you have your hand in the lion's mouth, you ease it out unless you want it to be ripped off. And I'm going to leave you with this. We often joke about this in the black community. We joke about how our ancestors responded to their slave masters. And they would say, yes, sir. Yes, master. Yes, sir. Not because they were afraid of them. They feared their life. So if it took them humiliating themselves or humbling themselves to live, they did it. But as you can see, things have changed. But it took time. There are some things that won't be changed until Jesus comes back. As long as we're here in this earth realm, I believe that we're going to always be faced with evil. Yes, evilness, wickedness in the earth. We're going to always be faced with prejudice and racism. How do we deal with it? The Bible says that we war not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness, rulers in high places. Some of this stuff that we're dealing with is spiritual. Saints of God, wake up. There are some things that we're going to have to handle in the spirit. One thing I do know, that righteousness exalts a nation. And some things are going to take spiritual warfare. Yes, it takes natural ramifications, but I've always been taught, two wrongs never make a right. But those of you that are spiritual, you understand what I'm saying. And you understand where I'm coming from. Let's get on the ball. Let's educate our children on how to react to misconduct of anyone. Not just with the policemen, even in schools. Even in schools. I was talking with the educator on yesterday, and she was talking about how kids tend to want to disrespect the teachers. And she said she always tells her students, no, you respect them. And when you get home, you let your parents know what the adult did and let the adults handle it. So I'm going to say to all of you civilians, if you are stopped by a police officer or you encounter someone in that type of position, authoritative position, think about it. You can handle some things in court, but you want to make it home safely. You want to make it home alive. You want to make it home without being assaulted. Yes. I'm going to have more coming your way. I'm about to create a log dealing with civil liberties. And once again, I want to be able to bring you your rights as a civilian. And not only that, how to react to certain situations. We're going to keep it spiritual. Yes, we are going to keep it spiritual. And we're going to deal with it from a spiritual perspective. And we do know that there are natural things that we must do as well. But however, once again, the fight is not flesh and blood. It's spiritual. And I wanted to say something else, but I can't remember at this point. To be continued. I'm Cassandra Lang, and I look forward to bringing you some more information.